All right, welcome to Rotary. Let's start with the four-way test the way we start every meeting of the things we think, say, or do.
Is it
the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And is it fun?
Absolutely. I know Henderson's fun. I miss seeing you guys, that's for sure. Susan, do you care to start us in prayer?
I'll be glad to. Thank you. Let us pray. Eternal Father, we come to you in thanksgiving for all that you've done for us, for the splendor of this whole creation, for the beauty of this world, and for the wonder of life, and for the mystery of love, for our Rotary family, and especially those who are not with us today, and for setting us at tasks which demand our best efforts. We thank you also for our disappointments and failures that lead us to acknowledge our dependence on you alone. Grant us the gift of your Spirit that we may know him and make him known, and through him at all times and in all places may give thanks to you in all things. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. I have 3 people to admit real quick, so just give me 1 second and then we will move on. Actually, our next club activity is the fundraiser, the trivia question. Lori, I saw that you were on. You have a question?
Sorry. Hello.
Hi.
How is it?
Hey, Lori.
I'm trying to do 2 things at once. I apologize. I think everybody's leaving town today or something because it's crazy at my office. So anyway, everybody unmute yourselves today. And we will do our trivia question. Now, I have a feeling someone will probably get this trivia question today. Today's trivia question is, when was the last time the Kentucky Derby was not held on the first Saturday in May? What year?
1945.
45.
Okay, who was the first person? Was it Ed?
Ed.
Oh, Alex?
No, I think it was Ed.
Okay. Well, you both knew it, so you do not have to pay your $1 today unless you would like to. Of course, it's virtual dollars.
Anyway. Yeah.
So I appreciate everybody participating and have a good day.
Absolutely. Just a few announcements. We are going to be doing meals 1 time per month, and this month the board decided to do the Henderson Community College. So we had some meals delivered today around 11 to the college, and they were very thankful. So thank you very much. And also, please feel free to share the Zoom meeting invites to any potential members or guests. We have plenty of space to allow anybody in who would like to join us. And then next would be Alex for our member spotlight this week.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. President Amber, fellow Rotarians. We're continuing on with our member spotlights to get to know each other a little bit better. And today we're very pleased to have Zach Shavira with us. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Zach.
Thanks, Alex. I'm glad to be here. Glad to see everyone, even here through Zoom. I really look forward to the time when we can get back in person. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, good to go.
Okay, great. So just professionally, and I know most of you probably already know this, but I work for a firm in downtown Evansville by the name of Donaldson Capital Management. In 1995, just a little bit of background on our firm. In 1995, we were founded actually in Evansville, and we've actually grown to be the 3rd largest investment management firm in the state of Indiana that is fully independent. In addition, we've actually been honored to be on the Financial Times top 300 financial advisors for the past 5 out of 6 years. My role within the firm is management of our qualified plan business. So in other words, I work with small to mid-sized businesses as it pertains to their 401k or 403b employee benefit plans. Anything from plan consulting, plan investment management, participant and plan sponsor education, and enrollment meetings, you name it. As always, please let me know, if I can be of any assistance to you and your business with any of those needs. On a more personal level, my fiance Lauren and I currently reside on the east side of Evansville with our 3-year-old Yorkie Poodle. His name is Simba. as of now, our wedding date is scheduled for the May of 2021. So hopefully, I know a lot of weddings got pushed back this year. Hopefully by then things will be a little bit better. This summer has been different. Lauren and I have actually spent a lot more time than usual out on Lake Barkley with family and close friends. And we've really enjoyed ourselves as we get closer and closer to our date, and we look forward to our future together. So even though we now live in Evansville, we actually both grew up here in Henderson, both went to Henderson County High, and I actually attended Henderson Community College for my associate's degree. So Henderson really has a special place in our hearts, and then obviously Rotary in my heart as it keeps me plugged into the community there in Henderson. So, I got to thinking, how long I've been a member of the club, and I think it's been around 5 years now. Throughout the years, I've actually always looked forward to, the Thursday meetings of fellowship and catching up and really learning how Rotary has helped the community and continues to help the community in Henderson. And really just being a small part of that gives me great joy. It's astounding the amount of resources and man hours that have been donated over the years. And it really makes me proud to say that I'm a Rotarian and especially be a part of the Henderson Club. So with that, I hope everyone has been doing well during these crazy times. And again, I look forward to the time when we could shake hands and listen to Ralph sing and perform the 4-way test in person. So appreciate you all giving me a couple minutes to talk about myself today.
Thank you very much, Zach. Very well done. Thank you. I think we all miss being there in person, and I agree with you. It's awesome being with Henderson Rotary.
Yeah, for sure.
Next is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Next is Mark Chumbler, who's going to introduce our guest.
Hello, fellow Rotarians. It is great to be with you today again, even if it is virtually. This is my favorite program of the year, and it has been for years, even before my buddy Tim started sharing the Derby preview with us. Tim has shared this. My friend Tim Grimm is with us today, and Tim has shared the Derby preview with us the last 2 years. This is his 3rd year, and so you've heard a piece of this introduction if you were there each of the last 2 years. If you weren't, I just want to share just a couple of tidbits about Tim again real quick. Tim, incredibly accomplished person and professional, has held large national and regional sales executive positions, AT&T, currently with a great water pump company. Whatever Tim does, he does it incredibly robustly. Personally, Tim has a fun life that he's created for himself with his wife and his 3 awesome kids. So the first thing that I'll share is he is like a phenomenal sports addict. And if you've heard his Derby previews, you know a little bit about that. But maybe more than being a sports addict, Tim knows his alcohol. Fellow Kentuckians, I want to share with you that he is a true bourbon connoisseur and can tell you more about bourbon than any other Kentuckian could, even though he's a lifelong Hoosier. And he's a Scotch enthusiast. In fact, if you go to his house in his basement, he's got this whole wall, shelves, 5 or 6 shelves that just have hundreds of Scotch bottles with Scotch in them. And he can take you on a tour of Scotland with where those Scotch bottles originated from in that awesome country. Anyway, Tim, connoisseur of all kinds of great things, huge Notre Dame football fan, Kentucky basketball fan. Last thing I'll say athletically is that Tim's children went to North High School in Evansville, and is a way to be a part of that community and to give back for what they did for his kids. Tim became the statistician at one point in time for North football and basketball. And he has now become, this has really taken a life of its own, and that Tim now is like, I don't even really know how to describe what Tim does. After every football game, Tim writes this story, keeps all the stats, and then writes this story for North High School football that when you read it, it's as if you were the lead writer for Sports Illustrated reading about the Super Bowl that just happened 2 nights before. Tim is talented in so many ways, a lifelong horse enthusiast, even from a little kid. He's told us a little bit about that in the past. The last thing I'll say is that we've all had friends and known people who thought they were the smartest person in the room, and usually they weren't. Tim's humble enough that he would never think he was the smartest person in the room, but I will tell you, as somebody who's known Tim now for the better part of about 18 years, every room I've ever been in where Tim was, he was truly the smartest person in the room. Truly a brilliant person, and an amazing giver of life to people around him. So it's my honor to introduce my friend, Tim Graham.
Well, thank you, Mark, for a very enthusiastic introduction. I appreciate that. I'll try and live up to that. How's that? And hello there, and thank all of you for having me again as your featured Kentucky Derby speaker at the Rotary Club. This marks, as Mark said, the 3rd year I've had the pleasure of addressing this group. And in 2018, I included among my Derby selections a suggestion that you'd never again get odds on justifying good magic in an exacta box like you would for that Derby. And the pair came in 1-2, and it took a $2 exacta bet, paid $70 and change that year. You'd never get those kind of odds on those horses again, and you never did. So last year, 2019, after I'd already prepared my talk, the unthinkable occurred. The heavy favorite, Omaha Beach, suffered an ailment that threw everything into a tizzy on Thursday. Then, between a heavy downpour and Luis Saez riding maximum security like a drunken sailor on shore leave down the stretch, the race itself was thrown into a tizzy. My talk last year concluded with the mention of a horse to keep in your exotic wagers because the odds would remain high clear up until post time. But the horse was capable of hitting the board and boosting any ticket. What Mark didn't say, I'm fond of quoting myself, so I'll quote myself here. I said, one horse to keep in your exotic wagers is Bill Mott's other entry in the Derby, number 20, a 30-to-1 shot, Country House. Bred for stamina and ruggedness, if any horse in this race is going to make a big kick on the far turn, it's Country House. I went on further, but suffice to say the prediction held true, and he was named the winner 20 minutes after the race was run. Last year also marked the first time in 10 years that the post-time favorite failed to win the Derby, but that owes more to Omaha Beach's scratch, leaving the race without a clear favorite, than it did to anything else. Now, on to 2020. I have spent the last 7 weeks claiming, when asked about the Derby, that only one thing could defeat morning line favorite Tiz the Law, and that was Churchill Downs itself. And I do not mean that as a knock against the venerable track. Churchill Downs is one of, if not the, greatest racing venues in the world. The beauty of the twin spires, the manicure of the infield, the quality of both the dirt and turf courses hold it up as the equal or superior to any other track in existence. The tradition, lore, and construction of the facility are magnificent and unparalleled in the sport. No, I speak of the manner in which the races started, the size of the field, and the ferocity of the competition. I believe if the 2020 Kentucky Derby were contested as a series of match races, one horse just against another horse, I believe that Tiz the Law would go 17-0 against all the other competitors in the race. He has already defeated a number of those horses in face-to-face competition, and those that he hasn't faced have failed to produce victories in big races anywhere near as dominant as what Tiz the Law has done thus far. I know it's heresy to speak so enthusiastically of a New York-bred horse to an assembly of racing fans in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. 'Tis the law, sired by Constitution, the highly regarded AP Indy line, and whose broodmare was sired by the legendary Tiz Now, seeks to become the first non-Kentucky bred horse to win the Derby since California Chrome in 2014. That could have been a trivia question today as well. He would also become the first ever New York bred to do so. A year ago today, it was presumed that there were 4 super 2-year-olds, and everyone was gearing up for a repeat of 2018 when a premier crop produced no fewer than 6 different Grade 1 stakes winners that qualified for the Run for the Roses that year. Early on in the Derby trail, a pair of Bob Baffert trained horses had run far ahead of the other quality performers in his barn. One was a colt named Nadal, who sold for $700,000 at the Fasig-Tipton sale for 2-year-olds, and he won every race he ever ran, while recording fair speed numbers greater than 100 in all of his last 3. In just 4 races, Nadal won $1 million, including a pair of Grade 2 Derby qualifiers, as well as the Grade 1 Arkansas Derby at Oakland Park. The Santa Anita racetrack claimed him 2 weeks later after the run at Arkansas, as he suffered an ankle injury during a workout, and he had to retire from racing. That removed one of the 4 super 2-year-olds. Barely 2 weeks later, another of the Super 2s, Maxfield, winner of the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity Grade 1 at Churchill Downs itself, by an amazing 5.5 lengths last fall. Well, Maxfield injured his ankle while working out at Keeneland, and he was removed from the Derby trail. Then there were just 2 left of the Super 2-year-olds. And the second of Bob Baffert's Super 2-year-olds had also sold for $700,000 at auction as a yearling at Keeneland. His name was Charlatan, and Charlatan broke his maiden with an electrifying 1:08 time for 6 furlongs in his very first race. Super fast for a 2-year-old, and incredibly fast for a 2-year-old in his first race. In his second outing, he set the bar even higher by winning an allowance race against a field that included 3 other horses who would compete in the Derby trials, and he beat them by an amazing 11 lengths. Then he went on to win a division of the Arkansas Derby by 6 lengths. He got disqualified on a blood test that contained a forbidden painkiller. Nonetheless, he won that race. Charlatan, too, then sustained an ankle injury that required surgery. And while he didn't retire, he will not be back to run again this season. And then there was 1 left of the Super 2-year-olds. And of the Super 2-year-olds, 'Tis the Law is the only remaining healthy horse. Other than Nadal and Charlatan, no other horse in 2020 has been as impressive as 'Tis the Law. And neither Nadal nor Charlatan are going to be in Louisville this weekend. In 2020, all 'Tis the Law has done is this. In February, he won the Holy Bull Stakes by 3 lengths in a time that earned him a speed number of 117. And I'll give you a reminder that a score of 100 is considered exceptional, and he rang up a 117. In March, he won the Florida Derby by 4 1/4 lengths, and he earned a 112 speed number. In June, he won the first leg of this year's Triple Crown at Belmont by 4 lengths and convincingly beat several of the horses entered Saturday. And most impressively, he won the $1 million Travers Stakes in July while running 2 minutes and change in the Derby length race at Saratoga. The winning time was good for a 1:15 speed number and would have been fast enough to win nearly every Kentucky Derby run this century. He's that good. Having said that, this Run for the Roses became a horse race on Tuesday morning at the post position drawing. The only event during Derby week that contains more drama than the post drawing is perhaps the race itself, and that could be close. And this is when I confirmed that Churchill Downs was possibly the only thing that could keep Tiz the Law from winning the Kentucky Derby. Odds are likely that no horse in this Derby will ever again compete in a race with this many participants. It's exceedingly rare to ever see a United States race run with as many as 14 participants, let alone 18. The large number of runners creates a situation at the start wherein horses begin crushing down towards the rail at the start in an effort to avoid having to run far outside around the first turn. To do so, if they get stuck outside, can cause a horse to run 20 yards further than the other horses in the race, and even further if they have to repeat the process in the final turn. Early position is critical in the Kentucky Derby. The best post position to draw for post time is somewhere between gate 4 and gate 10. Those are considered the optimal positions in fields this size. Horses have won from way outside and in the starting gate, but those horses have tended to be late closing horses who readily yield ground early in the race and then come running hard in the final furlong. Tiz the Law is not that type of horse. When it came time to draw pills out to determine the starting order, it worked out that Tiz the Law's trainer would be the last one to have his starting spot drawn out. And when it was done, after all 17 others had gone, Tiz the Law was left with starting post number 17. In 145 years of running the Derby, no horse has won the Derby from post 17. While that sounds ominous, another curious thing happened during the post-selection draw. The top three horses drew by side in slots 16, 17, and 18. It's a freak occurrence, and it could have a major impact on how the race is run. It could very well create a stampede effect to get to the front from the fastest horses in the race. If successful, they could slide inward to the rail before they reach the first turn. The problem with that scenario is that while all three of those horses prepare to stalk the lead, they like to lay back just a length or two behind the leader before turning on their tactical speed as they reach the top of the home stretch. None of those three horses prefers to outright lead the race. There's a pace to a race. The three fastest horses, those being Tiz the Law, number 17, Honor AP, number 16, and Bob Baffert's fastest entry, Authentic, number 18, appreciate a pace that allows them to run the opening quarter somewhere around 24 seconds and come through the half mile at 48 seconds. This moderate pace, that's not slow, that's a moderate pace, allows them to conserve their greatest speed for the final furlong. In order to take the lead, before they get to the first turn and slide inside, they may have to start much faster, say turning in splits of 22 and 45. If they do so, it saps them of their kick in the home stretch and makes them more vulnerable to late closing competitors like number 2, Max Player, and number 15, NY Traffic. With Tiz the Law as a morning line 3 to 5 favorite, that means if you bet $2, you're not going to get $4 back. You're only going to get $2.60, I guess. Which, by the way, Tiz the Law is the biggest morning line favorite since Easy Goer went off at 3 to 5 in 1989. So that tells you how big a favorite Tiz the Law is in this race. It'd be easy to be lulled into believing that based upon his Belmont Stakes, Travers Stakes, and Florida Derby wins, this race is more of a coronation than a competition. Churchill Downs, however, has become a factor and created a race within a race. I mentioned earlier, Tiz the Law's great success in 2020, and he has certainly won all 4 of his competitions handily this year. What I didn't mention was the only loss of his career. It came in his only other race at Churchill Downs. In 2019, having broken his maiden in his very first race at Saratoga, Tiz the Law then won the Grade 1 Champagne Stakes at Belmont in October. He came to Churchill last November to take a shot at the prestigious Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes. Tiz the Law went off as a 3-5 favorite in that race. It had rained that morning. The track was sloppy, but it was sealed. It provided good footing, but not great footing. The condition of the track, compounded with Tiz the Law getting pocketed in a pack of horses along the rail, contributed to a stretch run for him that was very uncharacteristic. He had never run with 10 horses on the track, and the traffic caused him issues. He had never run on mud, and the surface caused him issues. He'd never been further back than 3rd place at the top of the final stretch, and the position caused him issues. Churchill Downs became a factor, and it impacted Tiz the Law's race. Will he lose Saturday? I don't think so. What I do believe is that, just like every other horse in Saturday's Kentucky Derby, it requires a stellar ride by the jockey to negotiate traffic, an outstanding start to the race, a good surface on which to run, and a healthy measure of luck in liberal doses. Now, as to who can beat Tiz the Law in this race, let's examine the candidates. Second favorite, Honor AP, is also out of the AP Indy sire line, as you might have guessed from his name. He will have all-time stakes leading jockey Big Money Mike Smith up top on Saturday. In 5 career starts, Honor AP has either won or taken second in all 5. He has something of a personal duel going with third favorite, Authentic. They ran against one another in the 8.5 furlong San Felipe Stakes this past March, and Honor AP ran second to Authentic. When they both entered the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby, a race that was a half furlong longer, Honor AP passed Authentic in the stretch for a convincing 3-length victory. In Honor AP's last race, he matched up with Bob Baffert's other entry in the Derby, number 10, 1,000 Words, in the Shared Belief Stakes. This was another 8.5 furlong race, and I remind you that the Derby's a furlong and a half further. And 1,000 Words led wire to wire with Honor AP finishing 3/4 of a length behind him. Honor AP's form seems to show better in the longer races, and since the Derby is 10 furlongs, he seems to be a better selection at this distance than either Baffert horse, Authentic or 1,000 Words. What he doesn't have is any of the flashy speed numbers that Tiz the Law possesses. He's run a 100 speed rating, and that indicates he's fast. And with a perfect ride, and he's got Big Mike and Big Money Mike up top, at this distance, he's certainly fast enough to run a 2:03 or better at Churchill. He just hasn't shown anything in his 5 races that would indicate he's a threat to run 2 minutes flat like Tiz has in his background. Of the Baffert horses, 1,000 Words got an optimal starting position in gate 10. You can't ask for better than that in this field. 1,000 Words was sired by the same horse that sired American Pharoah. 1,000 Words has won 4 of 7 career starts, including a pair of graded stakes victories. He also has not fared well in any of his races that were longer than 8.5 furlongs. In an April contest at Oaklawn in Arkansas, he was asked to go 9 furlongs on a sloppy track and was beaten by 20 lengths in 11th place. In July, in a 4-horse, 9 furlong stakes race, he ran second in a 4-horse race, but he was 5 lengths behind the horse that won. And that was a horse that chose not to run the Derby, Uncle Chuck. While he has a great starting gait, it doesn't appear that he has the stamina to hold off any late chargers in the final furlong of this race. The other Baffert horse, Authentic, is out of one of the premier sires right now, Into Mischief. He's already won almost $1 million in his 5 races, with wins in the Grade 1 Haskell Stakes, the Grade 2 San Felipe Stakes, and the Grade 3 Sham Stakes. And that's a pretty impressive resume. But when you look deeper, it's hard to spot the Kentucky Derby bona fides. For all his mighty progeny, Into Mischief, the sire, has never sired a Derby champion. Authentic has never started a race that had even half as many runners as he will face Saturday. And I've already said that can be a problem. And had his most impressive victory in July's Haskell Stakes been 10 feet longer, he would have been beaten by NY Traffic, who is also in this race. Much like 1,000 Words, it's hard to imagine Authentic going 10 furlongs fast enough to win. And he is starting in the 18th post all the way outside. I mentioned NY Traffic. Some people, he's listed in the form as N period, Y period traffic, often referred to as New York Traffic. And I feel there's a horse, if there is a horse, that is capable of delivering a big payday at the track, enough to provide you and yours enough cash to spend an evening at House of Como, this could be the horse. While he's starting from the number 15 post position, it's not likely to bother him much. What he has shown, well, the 9.5 furlong Risen Star Stakes in March showed him to be a horse who was content to run mid-pack early and then draw on his strength to close the gap to the leader in the stretch. He's not a closer. He doesn't lay back in last place. He just likes to run in the middle of the field, stay in touch with the leaders, and then come on strong at the finish. He didn't win that race, but he took second in one of the longest of the Derby qualifying races and finished well ahead of some of the other horses in this race Saturday. In the Matt Winn Stakes in May, NY Traffic ran mid-pack and arrived at the top of the stretch in a position to contend before finishing second to the highly rated Maxfield, who I already mentioned was one of the 3 Super 2s who got injured. So NY Traffic was right there with him at the finish line in the Matt Winn Stakes. In July, he very nearly won the 9 furlong $1 million Haskell Stakes with, as I mentioned earlier, a late charge at Authentic. This horse has staying power. You can bet I will have an exacta box on the 15 and 17 horses on Saturday. Now, if there's a 20-to-1 sleeper in this race, it's likely to be number 6, King Guillermo, out of the award-winning sire, Uncle Mo, who, by the way, sired 2016 Kentucky Derby winner, Nyquist. His great-grandsires include the likes of Seattle Slew and Northern Dancer. A pedigree like that suggests that the middle distances should be King Guillermo's sweet spot. King Guillermo shocked the world in March when he went off at 50-to-1 in the Tampa Bay Derby. He stalked the leader through moderate splits and then passed him at the top of the stretch to win going away by 5 lengths. He took home over $200,000 for the victory and showed that pedigree counts for something. The only horse to beat King Guillermo since that race was Nadal, one of the other Super Twos, who has since retired. 4 of the horses he finished ahead of that day at Tampa Bay will be running Saturday. Now, if you're the type who likes the thrill of a horse roaring wide in the stretch and coming from way off the pace, you have a couple very good choices Saturday. Number 2, Max Player, won the Withers Stakes in February with exactly that approach. Running 6th in an 8-horse field for much of the race, Max Player took off around the turn and made up 5 lengths in less than a 16th of a mile. He ran through the 9-furlong finish in a way that left no doubt he could go another furlong at speed. Max Player, however, has twice run up against Tiz the Law since then, in the Belmont and the Travers, and proved unable to catch the big New Yorker. If the post draw, with all the speed on the outside, causes the early pace to go faster than 23 seconds at the quarter mile and faster than 46 seconds at the half, it could set things up very nicely for Max Player to come from way back like Country House did last year. But again, that's if the early pace taps Tiz the Law's strength and drains on her AP as well. The other play, and this one is certainly longer odds, this is going to be 50-1, is the 3-horse, Enforceable. Enforcable's sire, Tappet, is the epitome of a sire of closers. Tappet's progeny include 3 Belmont Stakes winners between 2014 and 2017. He sires horses who take a little bit longer to mature and like to come running late in a race. Enforceable would not have been a factor in the Derby if it had been run in May. Tappet horses just seem to mature at the end of their 3rd year rather than peaking in May. Looking at the calendar, we're running the Derby in September this year, and Enforceable appears it to be in shape to contend. His Bluegrass Stakes effort saw him take 4th when the pace didn't set up fast early. They went out in 24 and change and 48 and change. And his late kick, which saw him move from 10th to 4th in the stretch run, fell short of the leaders because Art Collector wasn't wore out. He still finished ahead of horses running in this race, and no one who finished ahead of him in the Bluegrass is running Saturday. His biggest win came in the LeConte Stakes when a hot early pace set him up extremely well for his late kick. Like Max Player, it will all be all about an early pace and finding a path around the field in the home stretch. Those 2 horses, the 2 and the 3, will be making up ground with a passion as the field approaches the finish line. In the end, do I think Tiz the Law will win this race? I believe very strongly that we are likely to see another Triple Crown winner in 2020. But that post position draw, in combination with Churchill's ability to throw even the best horses off their game, leads me to believe that this will be, as always, a horse race and not a coronation. You have to earn your roses the old-fashioned way, with 10 furlongs of grit and racing luck. And I thank you for this opportunity to address your group today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We have time for questions. Are there any questions?
Hey, I have one, Tim. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
you know, no fans in the stands this year, so that's 160,000 people who won't be bringing noise and anticipation and nerves. And would you say that also might lend itself to the favorite getting to be the favorite?
Well, I have watched well, with no football, no basketball, no baseball to watch for a predominant period of the year, I have watched every big race and a lot of the minor ones. It is true favorites have been running in this year because no track has allowed people in the stands. At Saratoga, at Aqueduct, it has been a favorite-heavy season. But it hasn't been without upsets. At Saratoga, one of the finest fillies of the last decade, a horse named Menominee Girl, was a 1-9 favorite. If you bet her, you got $2.10 back. Was upset by a 12-1 shot in a major Grade 1 race. So we've seen all kinds of things, but by my strictly anecdotal observations, favorites have tended to run in more because there's a lack of distraction from the crowd. Some horses draw energy from it. I believe a horse like Country House draws energy from it. So there won't be that in the stands this year. Any other questions?
I just wanted to thank you.
I got all kinds of time and opinion. Go ahead.
I wanted to thank you for bringing up the Easy Goer Sunday Silence battle back in '89. Parents been his favorite since then. I was in the U of L's band, and that was one of my first ones in person. I was standing in the grass on the finish line. It brought back a lot of memories to me. So I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. They both ended up being super sires, and their bloodlines have both been very successful with a number of graded stakes winners.
Tim, I have a friend who invites me to Derby every year, a client, and I want to thank you for Country House. Not knowing anything about it, I took your tip, and so thank you for that. It was very helpful.
Well, you got two horses. Max Player will probably go off between, given that Tis the Law is such a heavy favorite, everyone else will be at longer odds, all right? When you've got a horse that's that well favored, everyone else benefits. If they win, whoever bets on the other horses wins. So Max Player, the two horses, probably going to go off between 15-1, 16-1, somewhere there. Enforceable is a 50-1 shot, and I'm not touting him as likely to win, but I think his odds are better than 50-1. Now, are they 25-1? Are they 20-1? I can't say, but both those horses, if this race starts early, if you're sitting there watching it on NBC and you see that the opening quarter posted up at 22-2 or 20, an opening quarter like Justify ran in 2018 where it was 22-2, 22-3. I think the favorites, I think at that point, you can begin looking at your tickets and going, I hope I got somebody beside the favorites in, because that will set it up for an upset.
Tim, one question I would like to ask you too. The Secretariat's record at the Derby is almost 50 years old now. And it just seems like times for horses are not getting that much faster. Is there a reason why we don't see horses getting faster over a period of time? Or Secretariat just have much?
I would say, let me put it this way. Bob Beamon set the long jump record in the 1968 Olympics, and he set it so dramatically, so far out, that it took 40 years for someone to beat that record. I think Secretariat burst a record in a fashion that means it'll stand for a while. But he didn't beat it like Beamon won the world, the long jump. I think he beat Canonero II's record, if I'm not mistaken. It'll be broken, and I've seen other horses at other tracks run faster. They've run a minute 58. I remember Diversify at Saratoga 2 years ago ran a minute 58 and change in a 10 furlong. I think it was the Whitney Stakes, or else it was. I think it was the Whitney. And it is possible that somebody could run that. part of it plays into it, and it was part of my discussion this afternoon. It's Churchill Downs. It's that crowd. It's the throng. It plays into it. When you have that many horses scrambling for spot, it's difficult to get the perfect ride that a minute 58 requires.
Hey, you didn't mention the jockey at all. How, percentage-wise, how important is the jockey? 10%, 20%, what?
Well, what I will say is this. I continue to mention that they have to get a fantastic ride, right? You have to get a perfect ride to win the Derby. A bad ride can cost you the Derby. Look at Luis Saez last year. But what I will say in answer to your question is that the top 15 jockeys are this much better than the next 15 jockeys. But from 1 to 15, the difference between them is this much. Okay. So as long as you've got one of the top 15 jockeys, deciding between Javier Castellano and Florent Giraud, you're going to get a good quality race, provided the opportunities are there. You don't very often see one of those top 15 jockeys keep a horse from winning. We saw it in last year's Derby, but it's very seldom the case you see one of the top 15s cost a horse.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We do have, I did forget to introduce or have Alex introduce 2 guests that we have with us. So Alex, if you would, please.
Sure. Yeah, joining us today, we had 2 guests and prospective members that I brought. Missy Vanderpool is with us. She's the Executive Director of the Henderson Economic Development Agency. And Jennifer Marks is the new Assistant Director for the Henderson Planning Commission. So please make them feel welcome.
Thank you very much, and we hope to see you again. And thank you again, Tim. You did a wonderful job, and good luck on your bets on Saturday. We will see you all next week, and enjoy your holiday weekend. Have a good day. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.